we may cover a lot of horror because horrors tend to have the most amount of like franchises, most amount of sequels and stuff. But, I've got two in particular that I want to address now because they have crossovers. So when we get to Alien and Predator, how are we going to address them? Because they then have crossovers. And then when we do A Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th, how are we going to address them? Because they have a crossover that's kind of not necessarily in the middle of the franchise, but
if memory serves, Freddy vs. Jason came out after both Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th. The original series had ended. Is that correct?
Yes.
So Jason 10, the one in space, that came out before or after Freddy vs. Jason?
Off the top of my head, I think it came out before. I'm pretty sure it did.
So that's really simple, I think, because you can just save that till, well, you're right. Then which one do you talk about it with, right?
Yeah.
I think if...
and then would we do those franchises back to back?
I think that's the only way to do it.
Okay.
Doing them back to back. So Freddy vs. Jason is pretty simple because you could do all of the Friday the 13th, then Freddy vs. Jason, then what are you going to do about the remakes, right? Do you save the crossover until after the remake is over?
Or do we do them in chronological order? So then that's my question. So then when we got the remakes and stuff in there as well, so the other option, which may not be the best choice, would be that we tackle those two franchises at the same time and cover all 20 films in chronological release order.
Okay.
I don't know. So maybe we'll have to think about that one, and maybe the listeners.
That's a big one. That's a big undertaking. The Alien versus Predator ones are a little more complicated because you have... See, that's another one. You have Covenant.
Yeah.
You have Prometheus. You have AVP Requiem. You have Predators, The Predator. That's a very muddy franchise as well. So we could those we'll have to put a pin in that one. Those are going to take a little more careful scheduling and forethought. Definitely.
Well, why don't we get the listeners, if they want to, they can send us a message and let us know what they think. They can comment in the thread for the post and let us know what order they think we should cover those things in.
Sounds good.
So now what the heck was my other one? I think I had one more, but I can't remember now. I think those are the major ones. Like, how are we going to cover those things and whatnot? So, but I'm looking forward to this. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be an interesting little experience here because I'm looking forward to it. I like sequels and I want to check out some sequels. Like I wouldn't want to do that. Like, let's say we wanted to cover Batman, right? Mm-hmm. So you got Batman and then you got Superman and then you got the new DC universe, right? Like I wouldn't want to shuffle all those up, but then I really wouldn't know the order that we should do those in anyways, right? Mm-hmm. So there are a couple of complicated ones that we'll have to address on a case-by-case basis. But those first two there, Freddy vs. Jason and Alien vs. Predator, those two franchises, those ones would be ones that we're definitely going to talk about and talk about all of them. So
if we really wanted to confuse people and we did stuff in-universe chronological order and we covered, say, Indiana Jones,
mm-hmm.
Do you know which movie would come first?
Temple of Doom.
Yeah, exactly. But a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't realize that Temple of Doom is a prequel. And definitely we should cover Indiana Jones. I'm looking forward to talking about that when the time comes. But
yeah, because I haven't seen those in a while.
You can kind of watch those in any order. They're kind of like James Bond almost, and that was the idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for a while when I got the Indiana Jones trilogy on DVD,
mm-hmm.
I put Temple of Doom first on my shelf just to be a movie snob.
You're a nerd.
Well, let me ask this, Brandon. So you love sequels, right? But do you ever feel like, just talking conceptually here, do you ever feel like bad sequels ruin a good original movie?
Never.
No, you don't feel that way?
No, not at all. Because the original's always there. The sequels are fun, and they're just meant to get more of the same. They're just meant for a good time. And I've never once had a sequel ruin a movie. I really like Alien versus Predator. I think it's really good. Alien versus Requiem is one of the biggest pieces of trash I've ever seen in my life. It is just god-awful.
Well, to me, it's interesting how some franchises can survive subpar sequels, like
mm-hmm.
Jaws, Jurassic Park, right? Those original films are
Jaws
considered...
really, really, survive some bad sequels because
Well,
they
no,
died after that.
Well,
fourth
no,
one.
I'm just saying that the original film is still those original films are still
Yes,
held
okay,
in
yeah.
such high regard.
Right.
You know, then you look at franchises, say like RoboCop or The Matrix, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they have subpar sequels, general consensus, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that somehow kind of pulls down the original somehow. And it's just interesting how some franchises can survive it and some don't. So at least, you know, in the perception of, oh, these are great films. And then there's like 5 extra ones after that nobody talks about, you know?
Yes.
Oh, here's a question for you then.
Okay.
Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
Is Return to Oz a sequel to Wizard of Oz?
I haven't seen it forever, but I would say yes.
Because it's more a sequel to the book and not the original movie. So those are, and I'm sure we'll run into some situation like that. Because say, you know, you love Stephen King and The Shining, right?
Yeah.
Has a sequel novel called Doctor Sleep,
Which is coming out soon.
which is they're making a film starring Ewan McGregor as Danny from The Shining, the boy, all grown up, right? Mm-hmm. And so if we wanted to, we could talk about that one.
Well, we could because there's the Shining miniseries, right?
That's
the TV
right. And
miniseries.
yeah, oh god, the Steven Weber. God, it's been forever since I've seen that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have the original. So see that those are kind of some weird franchise you don't think of. You have the original by Stanley Kubrick. You have the TV movie, The Shining, and then you have Doctor Sleep coming out. So. And that's just fun conversation because you can we can try to, as we talked about in Halloween, kind of pick your own continuity, like which one does this fit with and that kind of thing. So that can lead to some fun conversations as well.
Well, there'll be some fun ones too because we got Pet Sematary coming out as a remake, but there is a Pet Sematary 2 for the original. You know, so like
There's
even
a Pet Sematary 2. Is it just completely independent of the novel or what? I was unaware
no,
there
it's
was
a sequel. You haven't seen it? Oh man, Clancy Brown's in it, and the kid from Terminator 2.
Really? Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I like it. I think it's good.
And then you have stuff like, gosh, I'm completely blanking now. But you mentioned this Stephen King stuff, and The Dead Zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I correct? Isn't there a series of Dead Zone movies?
There was a TV show, The Dead Zone. I've never seen it, but
okay. I thought there were sequels to the original Dead Zone with Christopher Walken. So this is what I'm talking about. It's like when you have an original movie, like based off a book, and then they do sequels to the movie but not the book, or sometimes the book but not the movie. It's interesting. So these are the rabbit holes we can fall down to here on franchise fatigue.
Well, while we're talking Stephen King, then let's transition into the other question that I did ask you to prepare for here. Let's pick our 5 favorite franchises. Like, what are franchises that you just like to watch and you just go over and over?
Like
and
in order, like it's hard to
not
rank
in
them.
order. Just pick
Okay.
5. Like, what are your 5 favorite ones? Like, I'll go with one of my 5 favorites then, and this is kind of spinning off of that last conversation we had. Is I love the Children of the Corn movies, right? And that's an original short stories, like 20 pages. And there was 7 sequels to the movie, plus a remake, and I think they're working on another one.
So what makes that so memorable to you outside of all the? There's so many horror franchises, as you said, right?
Yes.
Why is that one of your favorites?
Well, I don't know. I really love the original movie a lot, and like the third one is just terrible. But the fourth one is actually my favorite Children of the Corn movie, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the rest of the franchise. It's like Halloween 3, So it's kind of weird, but I don't know. I like them. They're kind of low budget horror movies, but they were ones that I always enjoyed watching. And there was a couple of ones that were really hard to find. Like Children of the Corn 4 and Children of the Corn 5 were the last ones that I saw because they were very difficult to find, because they were direct to video releases. And so they were a challenge to try and find them. No, people didn't carry them. So when I finally found them, it was like this, buried lost ark treasure that Indiana Jones found, right?
Okay, so for me, I would say, and this will probably be a controversial statement, but I will stand by it. My favorite trilogy of all time, and I truly think this is the best trilogy of all time.
I'm going to fight you if you say what I think you're going to say.
Back to the Future.
Oh, okay.
What did you think I was going to say?
I thought you were going to say Indiana Jones.
No.
The best trilogy of all time.
But that should still I have and we can do like a special episode sometime about this, Brandon. I literally have a list of movies that should not have had sequels, right? Pretty much the antithesis of your point of view on things. So that would be a fun conversation one day. But anyway, Back to the Future, right?
Those
because the original movie is like a perfect movie because it's a 4-quadrant movie too, because it's a comedy, it's sci-fi, it's adventure. You know, it has everything. You know, and it's a smart movie too. Like they set up everything has a setup and a payoff, and it's a perfect film. Right?
They're very well done movies. Yes, all three of them are very well done.
And it has no business having a sequel, right? It was they had a joke ending, you know,
Yes.
like ha ha ha, and then they're like, oh, we have to do sequels, right? But they found a way out of it, and they made 2 amazing sequels. So and then they closed a perfect story, and they have not made another sequel. And Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, the creators of Back to the Future, have made it like they put it in contracts. They say as long as we live, there's not going to be a sequel to Back to the Future or a remake, and I applaud that. So that's just that to me. That's the best trilogy of all time. It has everything, and I love it. And Back to the Future, we'll definitely be talking about that at some point on Franchise Fatigue.
Yeah, you got it. Well, another favorite of mine, like we've mentioned it a couple times already, I love the Jaws series. You know, those movies are really great ones, and I like all 4 of them.
All 4, really, Brandon.
I don't think the 4th one's as bad as people give it credit for. It's not as good as the first 2 for sure, but I think the last one's better than the 3rd one.
See, but the 3rd one does something different. I mean, I give it
Yes,
credit
it
for
does.
that, right? The 4th one is like the first 2 just again done worse. So
Yeah, but it's in like Bahamas.
it's a
That's
roar.
pretty
The
cool.
shark roars at the boat, Brandon. Anyway,
Okay, I don't interpret it that the shark is roaring. Okay, I know they added the sound. Okay, but I don't interpret it that. That's like one of those, one of those crazy, like, I don't know. Shut up.
I got you. No, I got my own thing with that because it's like people criticize Superman reversing the rotation of the Earth to change time, right? That's not what's happening. That's a visualization of him going back in time. And
No,
I can't
that's
believe
what happens.
I can't believe I just tried to defend Jaws 4 with Superman the movie. But moving on.
Okay, so what's your next choice for a favorite franchise series?
Well, I'm a Superman guy, as I said, so that's a great
Okay.
transition. I would say the Superman films, the Christopher Reeve movies. And what's great about the Christopher Reeve movies is there's kind of 4.5 because there's Superman 2 and there's Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut. And there's a whole, it's kind of like Halloween 6, Brandon, when we did Halloween H4O, we talked about 2 radically different viewing experiences for lots of behind-the-scenes reasons that happen when they're making Superman 2. And a lot of, for years, people wanted the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2, and it finally came out, and the people were like, yeah, maybe the theatrical wasn't that bad after all. So it's a lot to talk about. So Christopher Reeve he's the one to feature Superman. No one will ever be better than him. And unfortunately, I just wish he were in some better movies after the first 1 or 2. I have a lot of opinions on that because I love Superman and that's kind of my wheelhouse. So, but those movies, I grew up watching those movies over and over and over again, and they're just fun family entertainment, And yeah, that they as the budgets get lower and things get cheesier, it's a franchise that experience a lot of fatigue, which makes it perfect to discuss on this podcast.
So where would we watch Superman Returns when we watch those 4?
Yeah, I think we would have to, right? But that's interesting. And again, talking about timelines and stuff, right? That's a vague sequel to the first and maybe the second Superman. So it's not like you could watch those in order, so to speak.
Right.
So I would include that because it is supposed to be part of that universe. Much
Right.
like it's as if they made Halloween 2018, but with all new cast playing the same characters.
Right,
It's
right.
the same idea. So yes, that would be included in my opinion.
Well, we've mentioned it a few times as well. Halloween is another favorite of franchise of mine. I really like some horror ones. Alien is a favorite franchise of mine. I think those are great ones. There's so many great movies out there. Like, it's really hard to choose favorite franchises.
Yeah, I would say, and this is, as of this recording, Creed 2 was recently released, right? And the Rocky franchise has to be one of, if not the best franchise in Hollywood, in the history of movies.
I'm looking forward to that because I've only seen the first one, and I'll probably mention this when we talk about it. I got so confused on this because I don't know anything about boxing. So when that climax came up, I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And I'm like, once I finally figured out that he was just happy that he went to the end, because I'm like, he just lost. Why is he so happy? I didn't know what going the distance meant. I didn't know that there was a certain amount of rounds to box